Yes, indeed, the sounds of Rhapsody with Emerald Sword, possibly the most epic sound in the world. Even more epic than this.
Epic! It's over 9,000!
Yes, I've been told that by using drop-ins, I can in fact make myself funny. I should be trying this later on in the show. It works for Lockdown Hordak, it can work for me. This is Blue Please, here on WoW Radio, with myself, Total Biscuit. Okay, now I've got the kind of motivational speech, we will not go quietly into the night. Today we celebrate our Independence Day, rah rah rah, throw hats in the air, and there may be aircraft here. I'm gonna get that second wind. Yes, I did just say...
Second wind!
For new listeners of the show, Second Wind was introduced to add continuity to the show, like some kind of crazy serial. Not like Cornflakes, more like Lost or 24, where you have to listen to every show. It's a strategy, it's very cynical, and I should be ashamed of myself, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Second Wind. 2 weeks ago, in fact, I introduced the Second Wind, and it was, how would you fix the auction house? Now, in my opinion, the auction house has so much wrong with it, it just starts to beg a belief. It's not really an auction house as such, it's a glorified store in which all that you tend to find are people undercutting people over and over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter what the supposed value of anything is, because someone's always going to undercut it by 1 silver. And you're always going to buy the one that's undercut by 1 silver. Therefore, there is no stable market for it at all. Now, I got some exceedingly interesting emails over the last 2 weeks about this. I'm going to start with this one. This just really does show the kind of people we have listening to WoW Radio, the incredibly intelligent listeners we've got. This one's from Grey Stewart, or perhaps Stuart Grey, also known as Stu, aka Belittle, the level 70 Dwarf Priest. And he says this: Hey TB, I hold a 4-year degree in economics, and the AH problem is very easy to fix. Economics assumes perfect information. People will always purchase the cheapest item when everything else is held constant, quality, branded style. In WoW, all items are the same, that have the same name. They even make you repair weapons and armor before you post it, yeah? So, everything's the same quality. Even that is constant. All WoW has to do is to provide the information to the seller and buyer. From the seller's perspective, once an item is placed in the window for sale, a small box should provide the average sale price, high, low, and the number of items sold in the past 30 days. This will not totally fix the problem, but it will hold the items more consistent and constant in price. The more of the item that's sold, the more accurate the average price will be. This will be especially helpful with reagents. Sellers will know how much that item normally sells for, and they can price it up accordingly. They may even be able to show trends, 30 days high and low, as well, so people will know to sell a little bit higher or lower. This would function similar to a stock or commodities market. From the buyer's perspective, the same information should be provided once they search for what they want. They can then make an informed decision, and if Blizzard can incorporate trends, people might hold off a few days to see if the price goes a little bit lower. I agree that you should be able to proxy bid. The max you're willing to pay should be taken from your character, and if it sells for less than that amount, you get the item, and the difference in gold back. The last thing I would say is that items should be placed in the market longer than 1 day. Items should be placed with a 7-day auction max, with people allowed to make the auction shorter if they wish. This would help prevent price gouging on the weekends when more players play. I just wanted to add one more thing about the Second Wind topic you had from the previous week. I think it would be a cool idea to have faction-specific instances, maybe even city raids. There are 2 main reasons for this. The first benefit, this would allow for a ton of new content and a lot of new bosses. Alliance and Horde will actually get the feeling they are fighting one another. You may even have a city-wide debuff, minus Senate Spirit for 1 hour when the head of your city is brought to the opposing factions. It is a lot of room for new content. Last but not least, a shout out to the knuckleheads on her car. Yeah. Basically, that's a very, very nice analysis of the problems with the auction house. Again, the auction house is, in my opinion, just a glorified bring and buy. It's people just dump stuff on there for whatever value they happen to see at the time, and it sells because people want everything now. Now, that is completely understandable, but there are various reasons for that. It's not just the I want it now, now, now on-demand culture. It's a case of there's no point in waiting, because the price could go up, not down. And it might not be because of the number of things are on there. It's not really even a supply and demand thing. You can't really so much flood the market, because you can flood the market with stuff at the same price, and then all someone then has to do is stick a couple lower, and it's completely destroyed the entire thing. It's very, very odd like that, and the amount of money sinks and item sinks in the game as well, like for stuff like rep grinding materials, it's a big mess. So we do have some more emails on this, and yet more very, very, very valid commentary here coming from a Mr. Let's see. There we go. It's Ioeth, the level 66 Warlock on US Anvilmar Alliance, and he is actually a pricing analyst. He says, first off, shout out to you and the rest of the WoW Radio crew for doing a bang-up job every week. He says, I work in real life as a pricing and market analyst, which is a fancy term that means I dictate what our company charges for our products and how that compares to the market at large. I want to write to give a few points about the auction house system in WoW, how it compares to eBay, and my idea to fix it. Consistent pricing. Pricing is more consistent on eBay due to the fact that real-life products are easier to assign an expected value to. If I were to ask 100 people, what's the average price of a DVD movie, I would get 100 answers that are within a few dollars of each other. If I were to ask people in-game the same question about a WoW item, I may very well get 100 different answers. The asking price set by a seller in WoW is very much determined by what he sees the same or very similar items selling for at the time. If there's nothing to compare it to, often the seller will just pull a price out of his nether regions and list the item for that price. Now, he's got a section here called segmentation. He's got two sections, segmentation and manipulation, so we'll start with that. Segmentation. The Alliance and Horde both have separate auction houses, and we have the lesser used Gadget Sand, Booty Bay, etc. auction houses as well. That's 3 different places to sell an item, and that's only on one server. Across all servers, there are likely thousands of separate auction houses. eBay's eBay, for the sake of argument. One gigantic, massive product all grouped together. If your auction isn't in line with what others are selling for, it's blatantly obvious and it won't be purchased. Because of the separation, items that are easily available to Alliance characters might sell for 50 silver on the Alliance auction house, while the same item would sell for 10 gold on the Horde side because of the difficulty to obtain. Manipulation. The market in WoW is much easier to manipulate, provided you have the initial capital to do so. Let's use an example of something I've recently had the need to purchase, Greater Eternal Essence. On most weekdays you can find perhaps 10 or 15 auctions for the stuff averaging 8 to 12 gold apiece. If I have a few hundred gold, I can buy up all the essence and relist them for 15 gold each, making myself a tidy little profit in the process. While technically the same thing could be done with eBay items, there are other sources outside of eBay to purchase that item, so it can never rise in price to an absurd level and expect to sell. What's my solution, he says? Centralise. It may not be feasible or even desirable to merge all the auction houses on all the servers together, certainly, but grouping a few of them together couldn't hurt. Battlegrounds already implement something similar when they pull players from multiple servers, your battle group, to fight against each other. Why not have a central server for the auction house of, say, 5 to 10 realms, all sharing the same pool of auctions? It would help flatten out the economy on all the realms in the group as a whole. Realms that are charging very high prices are now faced with lower price competition from other realms and vice versa. Another perk of that system is that realms that have a low horde population, such as mine, will benefit from being able to be connected via the auction house to realms with a higher horde population and thus have more items for sale that are horde specific. It's all about getting the perfect price point of, that seems fair, I'll buy it, rather than OMG way too expensive or what an idiot, this is really cheap, which keeps both buyers and sellers happy. Hopefully this email has been a little bit insightful and maybe you can use some of the info in your show in 2 weeks. Have a good time. Here in the US, we're glad to have you. That's from Ioworth, level 66 Warlock. Yeah, I really do see his point there. It's very interesting to see that it's very much of a closed market. It's a very, very small market. That is, again, a point. Let me give you an example of the past few days. Now, on Masrigo, the server I used to be on, yes, I have migrated to John Bain, EU. Spellcloth was around 80, 85 gold a piece, but it varied wildly. That was about the price that you'd usually find it at, but you occasionally find pieces at 50, 60, or whatever. Now, on Trollbane, it's a lot cheaper. Today I bought 6 pieces of Spellcloth at 45 gold each. Now, after I bought all of those, the auction house was empty. Yep, no Spellcloth in the auction house whatsoever. Now, of course, I've been trying to acquire the materials for the rest of my Spellfire, which I finished my robe today, and my belt is already finished. I've got that lovely plus spell damage, 12 plus spell damage, epic gem in there, and I've got to grind a little bit more so I can afford my plus 4, plus 5 crit damage gems and socket the rest of my stuff. Now, I was buying it all up, yeah, deliberately, because I'm impatient and I had some cash, and, well, Spellcloth, as you're well aware, is a 4-day cooldown. I could make it myself, but I couldn't be bothered to wait. I'd rather have the robe now, give. Which is fair enough, to be honest. I don't see any particular problem with that. So I did that, and I bought them all up. Now, 10 minutes later, I saw 4 pieces of Spellcloth by 4 different people listed at 60 gold. Now, that wasn't due to a shortage. This is not supply and demand we're talking about here. This is simply due to the fact that there's nothing there. It's not on the auction house, so what on earth is the value? Okay, let's try and set it. Let's set a value. Now, everything starts to build around that, and it varies, and if you were to draw a graph of auction house values, you'd find that it was rather ludicrous. Because it's all over the place. The information, as stated in the first email, is not there. It's not there for people to look at, therefore they don't understand the idea of pricing. Now, to be fair, I do not expect everyone, by any stretch of the imagination, to be amazing at economics. No, that's not even required. But if they look at things like, say, take for example the Auctioneer mod. The Auctioneer mod's great, although not everyone uses it. It's memory hungry, it requires you to download and set up a lot of stuff. I used to use it, and it would keep track of various things, like the value of this, the value of that, the estimated value of this, blah blah blah. But it doesn't really help because, again, not everyone has access to that information, so it just takes one idiot to screw up the market. It's also very much affected by other elements, like, say, crafting. Right now, for instance, I see a very, very worrying culture, specifically the idea of crafting for free. Now, people may say, well, this is kindness. No, I say it's blinking stupid. Because if you're going to grind up tailoring, if you're going to grind up enchanting or whatever, you're going to grind up a trade skill, a profession in order to make things to sell, then giving the crafting away for free is just stupid. You're not making any money at all out of that, so why bother? Yeah? That in turn affects the price of goods put up in the auction house. You are not going to pay a markup for an item if some idiot is running around trying to get skill ups or just doing things for free because he thinks he's so kind. No, that's not kind, that's actually very spiteful and mean, because all you're now doing is ruining the entire profession market right there. That is pretty damn mean. You are ruining the potential WoW livelihoods of X thousand number of players who are attempting to make a living from their professions, and that is, of course, working as intended. That's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to make money from your profession, surely, unless you're doing engineering, in which case you're supposed to lose it. Lots. But you do get cool goggles, so that's the main thing. You get goggles and rocket boots, and therefore everyone's happy. So there's, again, something else that affects it. You got all of these outside factors. It's difficult. Let's go another email and see what everyone else has to say on this issue. And he says, Dear Mr. Biscuit, this is from Patrick on Thrall US Alliance. If you had to pick one item on the auction house that is sold more than any other, I would say that it's mana potions. Generally, 15 gold is the average sell price of a stack of super mana potions. Now, I've seen a whole row of stacks being sold from anywhere between 5 to even 50 gold. You made references between eBay and the WoW auction house 2 weeks ago. Other than the obvious differences, I feel the main factor that separates the two is the user base. If you go to eBay, you will find any time of day Gears of War at one standard price. However, at random times of the day in WoW, you can or cannot find super mana potions. Because of this, people have the liberty to set their own price. Those items will either be bought out or someone will make a new auction that is cheaper than the existing. This system makes the price fluctuate. You asked for a solution to this. I feel having a price limit and minimum on items is the key. At this point, you can sell 10 mana potions, for 10 silver or 1,000 gold. If you limit this to the item being sold for 10 to 20 gold stack, it will maintain the economy and limit the frustration of the auction house. Another option is to have a set price of the item. Each stack of mana potions will only be sold for 15 gold. The problem with this, of course, is that the auction house becomes less of an actual auction house and more like an open market. And a limited market at that. The only other function that can save the auction house, in my opinion, is to have like a looking for group tool. The way to find a pug has changed a lot over the course of the game, starting with Meeting Stones, the Innkeeper, a global LFG channel, and now what we have now. This new function works, and I feel it would work well with auction houses as well. That was my opinion, and I hope you like it. Yeah. Very, very interesting opinion right there. I'm kind of in two minds as to the idea of limiting people's freedom as regards to selling items. Free market economy and actual economics is a very exciting element of game. For instance, EVE Online very much centers its entire gameplay around the idea of a free market economy. WoW is very much less that. There's a lot of artificial things in WoW. Most things aren't crafted, whereas in EVE they are. Yeah? So therefore there is a free market, a player-run economy, the way Star Wars Galaxies used to be before they completely and totally ruined it. Again, free market economy right there. Everything was craftable, sellable. There's a lot of attraction in that. The idea of being able to make money from your endeavours gives people a genuine sense of accomplishment. The problem, of course, therein lies in what has been stated earlier. People don't understand economics, nor do they have the information that they need to create something, a price, a fair market, based on common sense and previous pricing, because they don't have that information right there. It fluctuates all the time. Again, it's also a very, very small market. It is quite feasible to have the capital to buy out everything. And there's nowhere else to get it, really, aside from getting it crafted. And let's face it, a lot of people are just too lazy. especially if you're looking at about equal pricing. With silly people varying prices from left, right and centre, why take your materials to an alchemist, other than a guild alchemist of course, to get things made? That's not... It's not sound, it's not an economically sensible thing to do if you can just pick them up nice and quick, and people don't want to waste time. So, as far as I can see, and the conclusion that I can make is that it's an obscenely compounded and difficult problem. I believe there are ways and means that Blizzard could help people out, and I do believe they should. The whole idea of giving them information and letting them act on it, great. Let them make their own mistakes, and hopefully most people will get the idea. Maybe I'm being a little bit optimistic, but again, people pay their sub, they take their choice. That information should be there for them. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. Time for a little bit of Nubcake News.
Nubcake News!
Stop that. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the programme, a special look at Tauren politics and its movers and shakers. What? Why are you looking at me like that? What, the Sun newspaper can do it and I can't? Oh, that's it. I'm so out of here to cover what Paris Hilton had for breakfast this morning. But first, Nubcake News has acquired some exclusive information on the new expansion. Sadly, in the pile of documents covered in doodles of Sephiroth... Oh, no, wait, that's a blood elf, isn't it? There was no new information whatsoever on the following somewhat less important elements, including new races, new classes, hero class progression, new zones, new dungeons, new items, new bosses, new storyline elements. However, we did find the most important thing of all, the expansion's new attunement quest. Tigol joins us right now with the info. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you World of Warcraft's second expansion, Northrend, with freaking propellers. That's right, folks, Northrend is airborne, using friggin' propellers. Northrend flies miles above Azeroth. So far, you can't even see it. In fact, it's always been there. You just didn't see it behind all our nicely rendered clouds. Sadly, due to technical issues, you are still unable to fly in Azeroth, though these rumors of unfinished areas are greatly exaggerated. We're simply concerned for your safety. There are several breeds of very angry seagull flapping around the place. It's not at all safe to fly. So, how do you get into Northrend with friggin' propellers, you ask? No regular epic flying mount could possibly get you there. There are unfavourable winds. We considered adding epic level woolly hats for your existing mount since it's rather cold up there in the stratosphere, but concluded that it would ruin our cartoony look and make the game look far too serious. We have your best interests at heart. That's why we're introducing the legendary flying mount. Both the Horde and Alliance will receive different versions of this exclusive item. The Alliance receives the Gnomish Rocketmaster 5000 with auto-navigation, shield generators, complex scientific experimentation kit, robotic arms, and self-regenerating environmental systems to cruise skyward in style and comfort. In keeping with Horde lore, game mechanics, and style, we have decided and designed a new and alternative mount. A really big catapult. Players will be hurled at breakneck speeds in the vague direction of Northrend with frickin' propellers and must roll a natural 20 with a -2 modifier, else they will fall into the abyss never to be seen again. We feel this will resolve faction imbalance and allow the Alliance to actually kill something first. Both of these mounts require excessively long quest chains, involving completing heroics upside down, an excessively irritating summonable world boss with a 6-week cooldown, and 20,000 gold pieces invested. We feel this will be suitably epic and will ensure that only the truly hardcore will get to experience this new content. Kungan threatened to stop beta testing our content. We must listen to Kungan. The Kungan hungers. Fear the Kungan. Love the Kungan. Sorry. So there you have it, folks. Northrend with frickin' propellers is on its way. You know you want it. This has been Nubcake News. Good night.